less about talking about peer guidance and more about, what we're going to get into today. But scrolling along the bottom is Founders Coffee. Every Tuesday, 7:30 a.m. at Red's Diner in Kensington. It's been running for 7.5 years. It's a great place to meet like-minded people, fellow entrepreneurs, whoever it may be. Just come talk, and have have a conversation with people that may be going through or having the same issues, or learn some other successes that are going on, in our community. And today, I am really excited about our conversation. Simon and I have known each other for about 4 years now. What we may have had a few drinky poos at a late night jazz club on King Street in Toronto, and some spicy food that I couldn't eat. Uh, but after all that being said and done, our friendship has grown. We've done a lot together. But the one thing I love about you, Simon, is that you've had many hats. You've been a CEO, a founder, a consultant in a few industry, and I know we'll get to Terravolt, but let's dive into your past a little bit, and talk about your road to entrepreneurship. Well, are you there?
Hey Jade, how are you? Sorry,
Hey, good,
just
good, good.
a little bit of a glitch. Good morning, thank you, appreciate it. Thanks for having me.
Oh no! I mean, I said we're excited. We're excited to have you on. We're excited to talk about Terravolt. But let's get into your past roles as like president and CEO, and tell us about this journey and all the hats you wore before you got to entrepreneurship.
Years and um, we met through the blockchain industry. I was working for a company called Binance at the time, which was my first foray into the whole world of blockchain and cryptocurrency. I'm a geologist by background. Went back and be in business. Over the years, I've evolved into doing a lot of entrepreneurial stuff. The the adventure in blockchain land uh, kind of led me into a bunch of different stuff through my network there, through a lot of shared colleagues, people we both know. And I don't know, I just kind of got the bug and really was working for these circle industries. I always had an on that. I always wanted to fix things, make things better, problem solve. Kind of, I think it goes back to my geology roots. What's kind of reflected on that in recent years. I'm like, what did I like about geology? It's like it's exploration over it's problem solving. I think for me that's the common thread. Whether I'm in a senior leadership role or in a technical role, it's like that's what gets me out of bed in the morning, is trying to solve problems. So I think as an entrepreneur, that's what you're doing every day, right? You're probably doing businesses out of nothing, right? Which is, I think, the ultimate challenge in business. So that's what's kind of drawn me to it. And then, yeah, in recent years, kind of dipped my toe in a couple of different industries, and you know, some opportunities have come my way to try to commercialize this new business, and it's kind of a version of what's landed me where I'm at today.
Well, let's talk about those different industries. I mean, we have a lot of entrepreneurs. Obviously, this is close to episode 375 ish. And so many people have come up, in an industry, or found a gap in an industry to create a solution or do some of these. And a lot of them have been, I've come along different paths like yourself. And then it's like, okay, I have an opportunity here. I've met my co-founders. I'm able to jump in, use my plethora of knowledge, throughout different industries and contacts, et cetera, and things like that. So how has that benefited you, your journey in the past benefited you as you step into, as a co-founder and president of Terravolt?
Yeah, I think just life experience and career experience, it all ends up overlapping, right? Your network ends up overlapping. Past experiences I had as a geologist or an oil and gas or in Bitcoin mining. I find Calgary's small too. I find that those communities and that network I have really overlap as well. I'm working with somebody on one thing, and it turns out that I have this same shared friend that's in a different industry, and so um, I really love to keep my network strong and to socialize, get connected with folks like yourselves, and you know I've got a pretty tight knit core group here in Calgary, and for me, it's always come from the people connections. I continue to work with people I really like and trust. I don't think I'm alone in that, but you really tend to gravitate towards those. And honestly, like friends, most of my closest friends now are friends that in business, and you share challenges and experience. Gas service business that I started with 6 other partners about 5 years ago. We're still working on that, and it's it's because of the relationships. I feel like I'm working with some of my closest friends, and I am, right, and we trust each other, and so that's the through point for me has always been the people from the different industries I've touched. There's so much commonality. Like if you really boil down what is a business, I'm trying to solve a problem. I'm trying to provide a service to a customer, and we're trying to make a profit in that whole equation. And whether you're doing soil remediation and solving that value transfer for people without banks in the middle, or whether you're finding energy resources, like at the end of the day, the core tenets are the same, right? I think you can,
Yeah.
if you understand business, you can jump into any business, really learn the local nuance and the new. I don't know. That's kind of how I approach it. How do we solve this problem today? Is kind of what.
No, for sure, right? And I mean all that, and it's nice taking journey with people you know and people you trust and your friends and
Totally.
old colleagues and things along those lines. Let's touch base now and talk a little bit about Terravolt. I mean, obviously you've come full circle from being a geologist to getting in different industries. Crypto's probably the farthest thing from geology, but
Yeah.
now you're back into soil remediation. So why don't you tell us a little bit about Terravolt itself and what your company does, and then we'll go from there.
Yeah, you bet. It's interesting. Geology and crypto definitely far apart. Polar opposites in many ways, but geology and Bitcoin mining, the kind of core piece of the crypto industry that I've got more directly involved in, really have extremely close ties. You've got energy infrastructure, right? And so natural gas to power to Bitcoin mining is a really natural synergy. And so that for me has been a super natural connection point. As far as Terravolt, which really is where I'm spending all my time right now and my energy, we're really excited about this business. I came to it after working on my other venture last year. Things are taking a little longer, as you know. Startups aren't easy, and really was like late last year and got connected to the founders of Terravolt and great co-founder Ed Hanna. He's out in Ontario. I'm here in Calgary. We have another partner, Hish Metwali, who's a really integral part of the Canadian energy space. And I met them. I really liked them. Step one, right? Back to people.
Yeah.
Really good people. Clicked, right? So that gave me a lot of comfort. And I did a kind of really deep dive on the technology and the problem. What is it we're trying to solve here? That immediately made sense to me. I then reached out to my network and started talking to, executives and managers and remediation folks, gas companies. And I was like, is this we're developing make sense to you? And consistently got really positive feedback. And that was the real kind of tipping point for me to get involved and this is a technology looking for someone to help turn it into a business. And given my technical background and my business background, it just felt like a really natural fit. And so, I haven't really answered what the heck do we do? Actually, that's sort of how I got here and how the logic made sense to me. The business itself, Terravolt soil remediation, we clean contaminated soil. Okay, and so the Terravolt, it's earth and electricity is the two terms there. We're using a process called electrokinetics, using electricity and electrolyte, mostly water, to basically electrically wash soil. It's like, what the heck does that mean? If you've never been exposed to this, soil contamination. Turns out salts is actually the dominant problem in the Canadian energy space, at least in the soil. And there's no really good technology to get rid of it. And so right now, if you have an oil and gas well, at the end of its life, you can cut and cement the well and kind of put the well to bed. But then you have all the dirt, the land around the well, your lease. To get a reclamation certificate, you have to do soil testing. Soil has to be below the salt levels are too high because there have been produced water spills. Produced water is very salty. You end up with this really salinated, salty soil. That's a problem. Right now, the only solution for that problem is we dig it up with excavators and backhoes. We put it into dump trucks and we drive it. Expensive and fairly emissions heavy because you got a lot of big diesel trucks on the road. And there's safety issues with all that traffic on the road. So we don't have a good solution. Uses electricity to break the bonds of the contaminants and pull the ions out of solution and basically strip the contaminants from the soil. At the bottom, you get clean soil. All happens on site. We get all the contaminants end up in the water. We then run it through a water treatment plant so that we can recirculate the water. And then at the end, there's the waste, the sludge off the water plant is basically a loads of dirt to a landfill. We send a small amount of concentrated waste to disposal. That's essentially the problem and how we're solving it.
So I think the key thing here is all this is done on site, right? So you're able to come in, you're able to get to a well, get to a wherever it may be in Western Canada or potentially all over the world as you start to grow. So what type of time frame does this take? And obviously with oil companies, whatever there be, JVs or bigs or small, the very very large. How are they viewing this technology? Do they think it's a better option for a solution at their well sites?
You cut out a bit there. The customers, was that the question? How are they viewing this?
Yeah, and I mean, obviously with the technology being on site and being there, it's obviously what you talked about before, saying we don't have to have trucks, we're not digging up all this soil, we probably maybe don't have to replace it with new soil, whatever the process may be. So, they obviously must be happy that you can, do it right on site and not have to, remove anything. Are we having connection issues?
Yeah.
Yeah, good eye. It's
Absolutely.
live. I mean, just like you talked about being an entrepreneur,
The-
nothing's easy.
Yeah, I spent. We're live, baby. No, I got you that time, so thank you. I spent the first. So we launched our fundraising process, but what I realized pretty quickly, and maybe this should have been obvious at the beginning, but I realized pretty quickly that I need to be spending most of my time with the customer and getting customer traction and asking a lot of questions and listening and understanding what their problem is and what their pain point is and how we can solve it, right? And we had our own concept of that going in, but listen to your customer. It's just basic, pretty simple, but important thing to do, right? And so To your question, I've been talking to a lot of oil and gas companies. They're very engaged. They're very interested. They like this potential solution because they do have the pain point of spending all this money on trucking dirt around. Everyone knows it's dumb. Everyone knows we're not really solving anything, and they are hungry for a solution. And when we map out this is what this technology will do on site to clean up your site, get you a reclamation certificate, and then the big one being, we're pretty confident we can get you a reclamation certificate cheaper. And let's face it, everyone wants to be green and innovative and all, right. So right now in market, it's about $100 a ton to landfill soil. We've got to be below that. So if we come in, we can be 60, 70, $80 a ton and never have the soil leave your site. We're solving a problem and we're saving you money. That's where the light bulb goes on, and they're like, this is really super interesting. So yeah, we're listening to the customer. We're getting a lot of feedback. We've adjusted our pilot plan and even some input on the field design of the system based on that feedback from them. The goal really is to work in hand with them to kind of move this whole system out. It's not at this point proving that it works. We've done that at the bench scale. We've had some kind of just really good science been done. We know we could have these contaminants from soil. We don't know to the decimal at what cost we can service. I'm going to do this partnership with the companies, so I just proven out model but yeah, they consistently have said this sounds really, really great. We just gotta kind of take some of the risk away and kind of get it working at a commercial scale.
So like now that you've got, and thanks for explaining that. And I, obviously the process that it goes through and the benefits of getting their certificate, being on site, not removing any soil. I think that's obviously a very good selling point for, your potential clients to say, hey, we're not taking anything away. We're cleaning it. We're having it here. We're keeping it here. That's got to be good for the environment.
Yeah, it's really a pro environment. I mean, we're trying to solve for two things: one, lower cost, and two, lower environment footprint. Those really one or two. It's not in order of importance, but we're trying to solve both of those things. And one of the reasons we got the grant from Emissions Reduction Alberta, thank you ERA, they've been a huge support. And projects. They're the Emissions Reduction Alberta. It's an Alberta-funded innovation and technology development organization, and they're helping, bring new technology to market and reduce emissions. Right, that's their high-level mandate. This stuff, we reduce emissions by reducing diesel burning trucks on the road. Is the dominant emissions vector for this technology. So, it's more environmentally friendly. There's less carbon in the air, less traffic on the roads. And again, ultimately, like circular economy, soil is a valuable resource, right? And so every ton of soil that gets parked in a landfill is essentially sterilized permanently. We're not using it. So to use that soil on site. And a lot of these sites are farmland, right? These are oil and gas leases where they're leasing space from farmers. And so for years, the farmers, there's been a fence or isolation around this site. It's unuseful land. We're putting it back to useful purpose, right? And so, there's a really big environmental and kind of renewable component to this for sure.
Yeah, and a big shout out to Justin Reimer and his entire team at ERA. We're big fans. I believe he was on this show a long time ago. I would have to look, but I mean, and they do great things and support excellent projects like yourself and many others that are out there. Again, I'm talking with Simon Raven, the CEO, co-founder of Terravolt. You can just click on the link in the comments section. It'll take you directly to their website to find out any more information. So, I mean, as you grow here, Simon, and as Terravolt and you're raising capital, so obviously anybody interested in that as well, you can reach out. what's next? Like, what's your, outside of these pilots, like, or paid pilots that you're going to be doing with these company customers. So maybe give us a little short term goal and a longer term outlook for your company.
Yeah, you bet. So short term goal is to the signing round. The goal is to get that done really in the next month. And so kind of dual, we're signing on oil and gas companies as partners and capital participants. They're going to pay for the service. We're going to backstop that with investor capital and grant funding. So immediate goal is next month to 2 months, if it takes that long, kind of get that done. And phase one of the pilots, we did a prototype doing all the testing at the university lab that we've got set up. And that will run through kind of fall and winter. And then phase two, we get to the field next spring. We prove this whole system out in the field. In this success case, now we're ready to go to pit. So we'll likely be doing another capital raise next summer to build out a larger scale, full commercial system. And then really it's securing customer sites and lining up business for growth. And so in the first year, we just used one kind of full turnkey field system. If things go well, by year two, we look 50 or 100 of these things to deploy in Alberta, to deploy in Texas, because there's a huge issue down in Texas, same problem fundamentally. And then beyond that, you could look at licensing this for other countries, Australia, Europe, internationally. It doesn't just have to be oil and gas. Really, any industrial site with contaminated soil is a candidate. And so we're starting close to home with some low-hanging fruit. These oil and gas sites are a problem, and we know how to fix it. But yeah, that's kind of the medium and longer term goal, is to expand this into an international business and clean up soil everywhere.
Well, usually I go to my last question, but you kind of brought something up there about licensing. So I just kind of want to touch on that a little bit, maybe your business plan. So do you think that that's, a lot of people just say, hey, I'm going to build my company. I'm going to have it. We're going to run it. We're going to build it. We're going to have it. We're going to move it. We're going to do it internally as, you know, a- as we grow. So do you, obviously licensing is something that you've put a lot of thought to, and is that really, you know, the way that you're looking at going?
I think ultimately it's the only way we can really scale internationally. And so I think licensing is a key component to the growth strategy for sure. To start, we're going to do this in phases. To start, we're going to build and operate the equipment ourselves, right? Own our operator, because we need to prove out the full system and control all those elements. Um, we don't intend to, though, we're not going to own a fleet of yellow iron. That's a skill set that's well entrenched in industry, and certainly in Alberta and elsewhere. So we're going to partner with earthworks and environmental remediation companies that are already in the market. We can also leverage some of their customer base because they're already working for the oil and gas companies who we're trying to problem solve for, right? So we come in as a partner or a subcontractor to the earthworks company, and we work together. So we're not going to own the yellow iron. We're going to own our treatment trailers, the proprietary Terravolt system. So for the first couple of years, we'll scale and build as much capital into the business as we can and effectively grow. That's people, that's safety programs, that's field trucks, that's the trailers. We can grow to a certain point ourselves with the support of our investors here in Alberta. Once you see a certain scale, and I don't have a hard cutoff number on that, I think we're going to learn that in real time. It's going to be,
Yeah.
too challenging to keep growing quickly with that. Well, at that point, we and now proven it out. We've de-risked it. We've shown, this thing works. We can now package that up and license that to other companies, certainly in the U.S. or internationally. That's how I think a licensing model. And now we make money in the core technology as opposed to all that.
No, that's awesome. And sometimes a lot of time when we have conversations, beforehand that comes out, but that didn't come out, and I didn't ask. So, I appreciate you expanding
Right,
on
right,
that,
yeah,
and I think it's a good way to go, obviously, and licensing is something that's quick, and you can find partners, as you said. So it's a smart way to move forward. So on that, I'm always sad when
but
these conversations start to come to an end. And
step
it's been
one is definitely. Oh, live TV again. We lost each.
live
It's all
TV.
good.
Hey,
I'm back.
we're back. We're back. We're all good. That's the way we roll, baby. I do have one more question for you,
Well,
Simon, and I'm very excited to hear your answer because you've had, again, as we comment before, you've been a geologist, you've been a CEO, you've been a consultant, you've been a founder, you're an entrepreneur, and with that many hats, if you had one piece of advice for a startup or a founder, what would that be?
and there's a lot of things, a lot of ways you go with this answer. I think my experience has taught me that the number one important thing I think is having the ability to stay in the game. It always takes longer than you think. It's always harder than you think. You're always going to get that back surprise, right? And so a lot of entrepreneurs, because they or they have money, they can either do something as a side hustle while you still have your day job or some income stream, or get yourself in a position where you've paid off your house and you have money in the bank. Whatever your personal life situation is, you need to have enough runway to see the adventure through. If you've only got 3 months and you painted yourself, you're not going to succeed. It's going to take a couple of years. So figure out the life situation that gives you the foundation to pursue your dream, your passion, your startup. It's going to take some time, and you need the resources to be able to survive that journey. Um, that's probably the best advice I could give again anyone getting into it. If you're super lucky, it'll happen quicker than you expect, and haha, that
Hmm.
sometimes happens. But the more common case is it takes longer and costs more. I'd say probably almost all of the time.
And that's a great piece of advice, and we talk about that all the time, right? It's twice as long and twice as much money that's going to be, and sadly, one of the things that we're trying to do in our ecosystem is talk more about the reality of entrepreneurship, not about the fantasy of it. And I have seen less side hustles and less people that would have this, and then all of a sudden maybe they're ready, 2 or 3 years after it's been a side hustle, then make that jump into full-time entrepreneurship because they can pay their mortgage and pay their bills and feed their family and whatever that may be. So that's a great piece of advice.
Yeah. Well, and also remember there's a real survivorship bias around success cases as you scroll through LinkedIn and you see all of these. We just raised 100 million VC round. We just went to market. We just sold our company. Credit to those folks. They've had success. What about the other 98% that aren't posting the we failed today. We didn't get there. It didn't work. I ran out of money. I went back to my day job. That's real, right? And so be careful of what you see on social media and believe
Oh yeah.
about, how sexy or easy entrepreneurship is. It can be, but the norm is it's a lot of work and a lot of risk. So be prepared for the journey.
And a journey it is. So again, Simon, thank you so much for coming on, sharing the Terravolt story. I value our friendship. I'm looking forward to going for our next lunch, and yeah, anything that you need in your journey, over the next little bit, please do not hesitate to reach out. And for all of you out there that are becoming entrepreneurs, come to Founders Coffee, get out there, network. You never know who you're going to meet. And I know we're coming into, we're just kind of finishing a conference season. We've got one more coming up in June, and then our trade mission in July with the Canadian Blockchain Consortium. So if you're interested in that type of a world, come check it out. It's a 4-day event right here in Calgary during Stampede. So, Simon, my friend, thanks for coming on. I really appreciate it. And I hope everybody out there has a fantastic day. And I look forward to running into you again. We will talk to everybody soon.